Good morning, Oracles. Well, we got a lot of good information over the weekend from Elon about production, about what's going on in Q2, an email that he had sent to all of the employees, some new markets that they are in. So I'm going to dive into some of that information right now and how it can change the future for Tesla, and then kind of how it weighs based upon the macro environment and any competition like legacy auto. So to start off, order pages are now up in Australia, Japan, New Zealand, and Singapore for Tesla ordering. So this is huge news. These are great markets for Tesla to get into. And thinking about all of these countries, I believe all of them actually drive on the other side of the road. Not sure about New Zealand. I was there, but I can't honestly remember what side we drove on. So if you're from there, please let me know. But going back to something we had talked about earlier about perhaps opening up a factory in Indonesia, and we know that Indonesia does drive on the other side of the road, so perhaps having this new market opening up for them could mean that they are definitely going to be opening up a factory in Indonesia to supply the vehicles just for these areas. And Indonesia just sent an official invite to Tesla to open up a factory there to produce 500,000 vehicles. Tesla, trying to be as efficient as possible, it would be a lot simpler to have a factory make just this car for all of these markets to be able to fill those up instead of having to kind of split it between, like Shanghai and having one line doing one thing and another line doing another. Just my thoughts, but it would make perfect efficient sense for them to do this. Another thing I thought about was when people just start discussing competition and competition is coming, legacy auto is also going to be doing EVs. Well, think about this. Legacy auto is already in all of the markets. That's what they are. Now, their EVs aren't. They're still coming along with their EVs. But when it comes to their ICE vehicles, they're already in all of the markets that are out there. Tesla right now in Q1 was more profitable than all of them except for Volkswagen. So if Tesla is bringing in larger profits than all of legacy auto and hasn't even gone into a majority of the markets that legacy auto is in, that just shows that even if competition is coming, Tesla still has to invade the areas and the markets that competition is already in. So if anything, Tesla is actually more competition for legacy auto than the other way around. Now, again, we've spoken about it many a times. When it comes to competition, it's more EVs versus ICE than EVs versus EVs because we want the EV adoption to grow, and that in turn is going to help Tesla and anybody else who is producing EVs. But when you're looking at it from a market standpoint, Tesla is actually the competition for legacy auto. And then Elon sent out an email over the weekend to all of the employees, and I'm going to read it to you verbatim, at least the first half of it, because it was really awesome to see, especially coming from a CEO to all of his employees and just being very down to earth. And so if you guys are on Twitter, it's over there, but I do have it written out in its entirety in the description down below. And he says, "We actually build great, new, real products that people love and make their lives and the world better. That is so profound. It is an honest day's work that you can feel in your heart. Whatever else is going on in this messed up world, know that at least what you are doing is pure goodness, and that I have infinitely more respect and admiration for you than the richest person on Wall Street." And then he even sent it with like little heart emojis and then his name Elon. Like, this is so down to earth, just admiring and respecting what everybody is doing for the company. And he knows, he was working in the factories and sleeping on the factory floors back in 2018 to get the Model 3 off the ground. So he knows what it's like on there. He knows what it's like to be in the factories to get these vehicles out and going, especially during very difficult times like we're in right now. So this is awesome to see. Now, the second half of his email had mentioned about production. And so finally, some actual numbers coming out of Berlin. He said they're almost pushing out 1,000 vehicles per week in Berlin. So this is great news. They are starting to ramp up. We knew this. And he did say that Q3 and Q4 are what we're going to be looking at for very exponential growth this year. He also did say that Fremont had a one-day record of production. Now, Troy Teslake, who follows production very closely over on Twitter, doing some rough numbers, says Most likely the highest day that they had hit previously was probably around 1450. So perhaps they hit 1500, maybe a little bit higher when it comes to a record day. So again, this is phenomenal news. That's right around where I had them for production. So again, we'll see how this keeps on going moving forward, but seeing as Fremont is pumping out even more vehicles over there, that's very good news for production to bring down demand. And then he did confirm that Shanghai is back to full production that we had known and spoken about already, and he said that Austin is spooling up. Now going back to Berlin for a minute, looks like we had some machinery getting moved into Berlin, and Alex over on Twitter, who does a lot of drone flyovers down in Austin, recognized one of the pieces of machinery as one of the robots that's used in the 4680 production line. So this means that Berlin is now going to be ramping up for 4680s. Now we know that the first 4680 vehicle came off and was delivered to the public from Austin, at least that we know of, just last week. So, and we also know that the 4680s, the plan is to get those up and being produced by the fall. And coming in the fall or in the winter, Berlin is looking to be having their third production line up and running as well. So this is great news for production and getting the 4680s over there. So this way both factories will be producing 4680 batteries. And so going back to Fremont hitting an all-time high for one-day production and then Austin spooling up, I had previously noted that my delivery date had moved from January of 2023. It was in this window of time from January to March of 2023 and got moved to April to June of 2023. It now got pushed back up. It now has specific dates of December 25th to February 19th. So that is very different than what we had before. So now it's moving back. So this is telling me one of two things. One, we know that demand and new orders have come down a little bit, but it doesn't matter because they're taking the vehicles one at a time as they're in line. I have a base model, so I would be at the end of the line anyway if they are going to be prioritizing the higher end vehicles. So having mine moved up tells me that they are definitely ramping up production faster than expected because they're moving the timeline up. I will continue to monitor this for you guys for mine, but let me know because I know we just discussed this last week about the moving of timelines, so let me know if any of yours ended up moving back up again after it got pushed out. And so this weekend we had an awesome positive news weekend for Tesla between the split news for the 3-to-1 split that we got on Friday after hours, and then getting this great email from Elon kind of breaking down production and how production is coming back. And again, Elon said if they could pull a rabbit out of the hat, they'll beat Q1. Chances are they're not. Most people have pulled down their expectations. Troy Tesla's around 249,000. I'm at around 262,000. Analysts are still at 280,000. So we'll see where we fall in that range. I still think if we hit 290 or 300 and they could make that kind of magic happen, then we will see a very strong end to Q2. But again, we don't know. We'll know about this, I believe July 2nd, we should find out all of this information for production and deliveries. So until then, we will just continue to monitor what's coming out for production. And we are starting off the day red. We've got the entire macro environment selling off. Crypto has been selling off hard all weekend long. That means that Tesla is going to be taking most likely a $200 million impairment charge based on the Bitcoin that they own. And we know that we have the FOMC meeting coming on Wednesday. Poor CPI data that we got on Friday, but I believe the FOMC is going to ultimately weigh on what is going to happen with the stock price for the rest of the week. We'll watch and see how it goes. Again, for those of us who are long-term investors, it's not truly going to matter what happens in the near term, but if you are truly a long-term investor, then you know what? Something like this could be a great opportunity to buy more. Again, it all depends on how you value it. And I know I've had some awesome discussions with many of you in the comments about valuing Tesla as a company, as a stock. And I love these conversations because it really gives great balance. And for many of you, if you're on both ends of the spectrum, or you're trying to really understand where the bears are coming from, feel free to jump into the comments because most of you put up very good arguments on both ends of the spectrum. So thank you for all of that because that really gives a great perspective on both sides. And one of the things that I do pay attention to when it comes to both sides is where do we see some congruency? And a lot of that is in the long term. There's many differing opinions in the near term, which is totally normal because the stock and the macro environment are so volatile right now. But many of you, even on the more bearish side, agree that long term, the stock is going to do very well. And these are the things that I pay attention to, very much like, we'll get, like Barclays put out a new rating, and they're very bearish on the stock, but even they raised up their price target by 15%. So when we're seeing even the bearish analysts raising price targets, that tells me that the company is moving in the right direction and they're going to do very well long term. So in the near term, you've got to do your own due diligence and figure out what you want to do for the stock and how you want to invest. But looking at it long term, nearly everyone agrees that Tesla as a company is going to be very strong. And the other thing that most everyone agrees on are the fundamentals of the company are also very strong. So when it comes down to it, the real difference between the bears and the bulls is how they see the growth of the company in the future. That's really it. I was having a great conversation with one of you in the comments discussing, you've got a 20% growth outlook for the company, and Tesla themselves has a 50% growth outlook for the company. Then you start putting the different PE ratios on it, and those two things alone are going to be significant when it comes down to a price target. So you put a lower multiple on it and you put a lower growth target on it, you come up with about a $150 price tag. Totally makes sense. Those of us who put a 50% growth on it and a higher multiple because we don't value it like a legacy automotive maker who's been around and doesn't have that growth trajectory, we value it higher. Honestly, that is really the huge difference when it comes to price targets in the stock. Otherwise, fundamentally, most everyone agrees that they are strong fundamentally and they will do well long term. Let me know in the comments below, how do you feel about production? Do you think Tesla is going to be able to pull it off and beat Q1, or at least maybe hit 300,000 vehicles delivered for Q2? I don't know. I think it's going to be a stretch. We shall see. A month down in Shanghai is pretty tough to overcome, but it sounds like they're really pushing hard. So let me know your thoughts in the comments on that. And let me know where you are on the spectrum when it comes to PE ratio and growth projection for the company. Because again, these two things are huge when you're weighing in for a price target. Thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate all of your support and feedback. If you have not subscribed, please do so down below. Sign yourself up for notifications. I am over on Twitter at OracleTim1. I share all of the latest Tesla news, pertinent stock market information, and all of my daily trades. We do have a Discord channel, that link is in the description. And if you'd like to support the channel any further, I am over on Patreon. I've been uploading over there a bunch of my spreadsheets with my investments and income, price targets, production targets, and other things. Thank you so much. Have a great one.